Good evening. You're watching News Night. We're back with another edition, and tomorrow is the big day. Modi, the Prime Minister designate, will be all suspense now rising over what would a Modi 2.0 cabinet look like. What exactly is it that the Prime Minister designate is looking to do or achieve with his second successive term in office, with even a bigger majority now than he had the first time around. He became Prime Minister in 2014. Lots of speculation, not just in Delhi circles, but also in political circles, about the composition on what might the Modi Cabinet 2.0 look like. We have with us Narendra Chaudhary, senior journalist, along with R. Rajagopalan, also a senior journalist and political analyst, and we will talk through the next 20 minutes on what this cabinet could look like, what the composition could be, and what are the faces, what kind of faces are we going to see in this Modi 2.0 cabinet. Will it be a mix really of the old and the new? Will proportional representation be given to the states which actually gave back handsome margins to the BJP this time around? What is the sense our panelists are getting? And let me start with R. Rajagopalan, if I could. Mr. Rajagopalan, lots of talk, lots of ink being used really to write up on who might be the next finance minister of the country. The Arun Jaitley effect is there for everyone to see. We know that at about 8:30 tonight, Mr. Arun Jaitley was paid a visit by the Prime Minister designate himself to try and convince him to stay on in government. This after Mr. Jaitley, of course, said that he wouldn't like to, given his health reasons, etc., etc. Do you think there are going to be big changes in the big four, as they call it?
It looks like that. My understanding, Athar, those who have been very close to Mr. Arun Jaitley, because Arun Jaitley was the father figure of drafting manifestos of BJP, because Mr. Arun Jaitley had inputs. If you go to the 2013 in Goa resolution of BJP, where they projected Mr. Narendra Modi as Prime Ministerial candidate, since then Mr. Arun Jaitley was much closer to Mr. Narendra Modi, and Narendra Modi depended more on Arun Jaitley. Therefore, he was given two portfolios at the main instance in 2014, that is defense and also finance. Now we have to wait and watch whether Mr. Arun Jaitley is convinced about his health, and whether Prime Minister was able to, what the conversation was, we do not have any feedback. Therefore, my understanding overall, tomorrow Narendra Modi too, as I have the statistics earlier, Athar, 25 cabinet ministers were there in the outgoing Mr. Narendra Modi's cabinet, 11 ministers of state independent charge, 34 ministers of state. Therefore, it roughly comes to 70. Okay. Therefore, Mr. Narendra Modi can go up to 85. That is 15% of the total strength of both houses.
That's a large cabinet there, along with ministers of state.
Cabinet. Therefore, Mr. Narendra Modi has to accommodate Janata Dal U, ADMK, Telugu, sorry, this TRS.
Right. But I want to focus really on first the big four. Could there be big changes in the big four? Because we know that Mr. Arun Jaitley has expressed his desire not to be part of the cabinet this time around. But we also know, Nirja, that the Prime Minister, and which is a departure really from the way he functions, has gone and met Mr. Arun Jaitley, trying to convince him to stay on board. Do you think that for the interim, it's a safe bet to say that Mr. Jaitley would be convinced by the Prime Minister, who is a very persuasive man, to say the least, to stay on for the time being? Nirja, can you hear me?
It's gone.
All right, we don't seem to have Nirja currently now.
Take the question.
Take the question now. Yes, Mr. Rajagopalan.
I take the question because Mr. Arun Jaitley's importance in the cabinet, if you go by this four, the top four, what you have mentioned, they're all members of Cabinet Committee on Security.
Yeah.
For example, like Pulwama, like Palakot happens. If you remember, soon after the CCET meeting, Palakot was announced by Arun Jaitley and Madam Nirmala Sitharaman.
Yes.
Therefore, this type of importance, Prime Minister has confidence in Arun Jaitley. Prime Minister has got confidence in Rajnath Singh, Sushma Swaraj, Nirmala Sitharaman, like that. These four may be repeated in the North Bloc and South Bloc, which is rising our hills.
So you believe continuity is important for the Prime Minister, even though he has much more leeway? And also, Mr. Rajagopalan, very important question here. How much of an imprint do you think Mr. Amit Shah will have in the selection of ministers, and who gets in this time, who gets what post? We also speculations, of course, that he wanted the finance portfolio, but that, of course, is speculation. I don't want to get into that right now. Do you think it will have a much larger imprint of Mr. Shah this time around?
Of course it is. 80% of the legwork was done by Mr. Amit Shah. Therefore, Amit Shah will have a say. From the candidate selection onwards, from the meeting addressing the public rallies, therefore Amit Shah knows the pulse of the candidate, pulse of the personality whom he is going to recommend. Therefore, Amit Shah imprint will be there. Apart from that, I am telling you a very important thing, Athar. The Prime Minister meeting Arun Jaitley and further, these 4 ministers, what you have been saying, that Cabinet Committee on Security is much more important, and that 4 members, whether Rajnath Singh, Sushma Swaraj, Nirmala Sitharaman, Arun Jaitley, these 4 have been, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a status quoist.
All right,
he never disturbed anyone.
Very interesting.
He is a status quoist man. Prime Minister wants the status quo to continue, no disturbance to others. He has given, if you understand, from 2014 to 2019, he did not disturb major portfolio.
Yes.
If you have understood it.
Yes, absolutely. The only change was...
My reading of Mr. Narendra Modi is, Mr. Narendra Modi, even after Gujarat experiment, he never changed the portfolio very often and all. He is a status quoist.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to quickly go across to Neerja Chaudhary and ask whether or not she agrees with it. No changes in the big 4, Neerja. Do you anticipate that? Because Mr. Rajgopalan seems to think the approach of the Prime Minister this time around is going to be status quoist. He thinks it's working well, and as the Americans say, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Hello. We don't know the answer to that. You know, there was a time when media used to get news about what was the thinking in the Prime Minister's camp, and even days before the cabinet reshuffle took place or the cabinet was appointed. That is no longer the case. It's a very tightly held secret. So you and I are really doing a guessing game. Now, if Mr. Arun Jaitley has already tweeted that he would like to be excused from any responsibility in this government because of his health, certainly one of those 4 portfolios will have to be replaced. Therefore, who will it be? And that may lead to a shuffle, even if the Prime Minister keeps the actors the same. It will bring in one new element.
But Neerja, we also know that the Prime Minister did go and visit Mr. Jaitley at about 8:30 this evening to try and convince him to stay on at all. And like I said before in the program, the Prime Minister is nothing if not a persuasive person.
And you know, the Prime Minister will need another Arun Jaitley #2 in his cabinet, because Mr. Jaitley was much more than just finance minister. He did all the troubleshooting. Of course, the other change we will see, Mr. Amit Shah has been the #2 in this dispensation, but as party president, we will might see him as #2 in government, and increasingly the successor to Mr. Modi whenever that time comes. Now, there is a buzz about what portfolio Mr. Amit Shah may be given. Of course, there is the other view which Mr. Rajgopalan has voiced, that more or less it will be the continuation of the same, and Mr. Amit Shah may continue as party president given the important elections that are coming up. But then important elections will be coming up all the time, and they may be, you know, he's established the party structure in such a way, a well-oiled machinery, that it may not need his active presence all the time. There are enough people out there now who could carry the party forward in quite the same way as Mr. Shah has done.
Fair enough. Now,
I think one thing we are going to see very clearly.
Yes, continue, please.
I think there will be probably more women in this cabinet, more young people in the Council of Ministers. Will it be Mr. Sukhbir Badal or Harsimrat Badal, one of the two, to represent the Akali Dal? Will it be Ramvilas Paswan or his son, though the party has passed a resolution saying it should be the senior Paswan? Of course, now the Prime Minister's prerogative to choose his team, of course, had been established. But will he give due weightage to his allies on who should be
as far as the reports are concerned, we know that the JDU wants to be on par with the Shiv Sena and vice versa. And we also have Narendra Tirupati joining us on the program right now. Mr. Tirupati, thank you for joining us. First of all, what are your expectations really from the Modi Cabinet 2.0? Do you agree with my other guests, Neerja Chaudhary and Rajgopalan, who say, Mr. Rajgopalan said said, of course, that he believes the Big Four will be completely untouched. The Prime Minister likes status quo. He doesn't want to rock the ship at all. But are we also expecting a large number of new entrants, giant killers, so to say? Smriti Irani, after all, defeated Rahul Gandhi there. There must be some expectation for her, at least, to get some sort of reward after felling the main political rival of the Prime Minister.
No, I fully agree with Mr. What Rajagopalan has said. And it is the prerogative of the Prime Minister to appoint his Council of Ministers. And as far as I know, the entire BJP MPs are really talented and they will definitely cooperate with the Prime Minister. And whoever comes, they are going to lead this country to a great effort. That is what going to happen. And Mr. Modi's cabinet will be like
this time around,
more than the first.
This time around, Mr. Tirupati,
definitely we are going to continue all the.
Do you believe this time around representation from states like Odisha and Bengal, where the BJP has exceeded expectations, is going to go up slightly because they also want to send out a signal to these states that, look, you were with us when the time was right?
Telangana is more important.
Telangana, absolutely. 4 seats in Telangana, absolutely.
Definitely. See, we have people from Telangana, we have got people
Karnataka
from
is more
Odisha,
important.
we have got people from West Bengal, Karnataka, yes.
Okay.
And definitely all these states will be given representation.
All right, fair enough.
There is no doubt at all. But in BJP, we don't differentiate, between states. And the entire ministers will work for the entire country.
No, understood.
So
understood.
I don't
But
think
there
there
are,
is
of
any
course, also realistic
problem on that front, but
expectations
definitely
that we also
representation
want to keep in mind when Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah finalize their team. And I'm going to ask those questions to Nirja as well as Mr. Rajagopalan after the break. Please take a break. Come right back. You're watching News Night. Welcome back. The stage is now set for the Modi Cabinet 2.0. Who exactly is going to find a place in the cabinet? Who's going to be made minister? Who's going to be retained? Who's going to be dropped? We can tell our viewers at this point that we have a couple of names that are confirmed for tomorrow's swearing in. That includes Dharmendra Pradhan, who was Petroleum Minister, Ravi Shankar Prasad, who was IT Minister, Prakash Javadekar, who's HRD Minister, Narendra Singh Tomar, along with Arjun Meghwal as well. So these few names are confirmed tomorrow, along with the Big Four of the current existing establishment and the current existing cabinet, who might, as Rajagopalan says, will be completely untouched. The Prime Minister likes status quo as far as the Big Four are concerned. Now, very quickly, Mr. Rajagopalan, as far as Mr. Tirupati's point of giving equal representation to talent is concerned, there are considerations that the BJP, Mr. Shah and Mr. Modi will have to look into sort of giant killers or people who beyond expectations. Do you think we're going to see some new faces?
Of course, the Bangalore South, Mr. Tejasvi Surya, who is a very young person, 28 years old, he may be taken in. Prime Minister wants to give younger representation. If you see about the 4 in the North Block and South Block, the Cabinet Committee on Security, I also go for, there are 34 ministers of state for Prime Ministers to fill in. Out of the 34, he may go in for 15 or 20 women representation, youngsters, and technocrats. There are a lot of things. Whether Mr. Narendra Modi is going to be concentrating on MOS independent charge, because it is going to be a 3-tier ministry, cabinet minister, MOS independent charge and MOS.
Right.
So therefore, whether he is going to give thrust to MOS independent charge, where he will groom the youngsters. So these are all certain things we will know. We can examine the mind of Mr. Narendra Modi.
Fair enough.
Only tomorrow.
Two interesting names I want to throw out there. Nirja Chaudhary, help me understand this. Smriti Irani defeated Rahul Gandhi, giant killer in no uncertain terms, and Nitin Gadkari, one of the better performing ministers in the first cabinet of Mr. Modi. What do you think the future lies for these two individuals? Will Mr. Gadkari find himself in the same ministry, or could there be a reshuffle there? And Smriti Irani, do you think after her HRD to textile, her graph is about to go up?
I think I would say yes to both. That Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who's also delivered on infrastructure, a dynamic minister, certainly I don't know whether he'll be upgraded to one of the 4, but certainly the transport ministry that he held, I would think, my guess would be that he may continue in that. Smriti Irani also is a very dynamic woman, had problems with bureaucrats, run-in with bureaucrats, and I think then was sent only to textiles. But she too, I think, will be upgraded because she has delivered. And delivered the big time in terms of wresting the fiefdom of the Nehru-Gandhi family from them. It's a big achievement winning Amethi.
What about Sushma Swaraj? Because she was by and large considered to be the best performing minister, perhaps after Nitin Gadkari, and she of course had her problems with her health as well. She didn't even contest the Lok Sabha polls. Do you think she'll be allowed to continue as a Minister of External Affairs? Is that a possibility you foresee?
I don't know, because again she cited health reasons for not contesting. Unless and health reasons being, to be active in one of the top ministries. The same argument will apply with Arun Jaitley. To continue as finance minister, given his ill health, lack of energy, will they make him minister without portfolio? Have him in the cabinet without the arduous work of the finance ministry? I don't know. Same also with Sushma Swaraj. Really, I don't know the answer to that question.
Mr. Tirupati, would you like to come in here as far as these names are concerned? Also, going back to the representation aspect of it, Mr. Rajagopalan mentioned some certain first-time MPs, although there is a view which considers that Karnataka already has more than 18, 19 MPs from that state. Perhaps representation will be given to places where they want to go further in. Might the representation for the Northeast go higher, perhaps even more than 2-3 ministers?
Yes. See, first of all, as far as Mr. Arun Jaitley is concerned, I regard him as one of the best finance ministers India ever had. The economy, the control what he had on the economy, the control what he had on the pricing, the price, it was really superb. And he has done an excellent job. He has carried his ministry in his honor.
Low inflation.
Yeah, low inflation, yes. See, I don't think anybody did that except Mr. Arun Jaitley. So we have to give him a big applause for that. And also, as Mr. Rajagopalan said, it will be a mixture of, I think it will be a mixture of youth and women and also experience, like Mr. Nitin Gadkari, the wonderful person who has created a big infrastructure, and that has resulted definitely. That is also one of the best performance. So I think it will be a mixture of youth, women, and also experienced persons. That's it. Okay,
Mr. Rajagopalan, you want to come in here?
I want to convey one important thing. If Mr. Arun Jaitley is returning to the cabinet, who will be leader of the Rajya Sabha? Because Arun Jaitley is now leader of Rajya Sabha. Similarly, who will be the speaker of Lok Sabha? Whether it is Rajnath Singh or can it go to any senior leader? Because it is 303 members of parliament have come. There will be an RSS person who will be the speaker of Lok Sabha, because if you go by the last term, Sumitra Mahajan, true Hindutva, for everything she used to say Om Santi, Om Santi. That type of Hindutva feeling they want to inculcate in the minds of people. That is why speaker is important. Will an RSS leader be the speaker of Lok Sabha? So this is all said. Will Prakash Javadekar be the real leader of Rajya Sabha if Mr. Arun Jaitley joins the cabinet and may not be in the leader of Rajya Sabha? So these are all certain things which Mr. Amit Shah and Arun Jaitley and Mr. Amit Shah would have.
One last question, Nirja Chaudhary. Given the fact that the biggest challenge still is going to be the economy for the Prime Minister designate here as well, and if there is a possibility that Mr. Arun Jaitley might continue as minister without portfolio, they would need a strong hand to steer the finance ministry. Who are the best bets for the Prime Minister? What are the options here?
You see, that this time attention is focused on who will be the finance minister of India come tomorrow evening. The financial capital, Bombay, is watching this very minutely. The global investors are watching this. The dealing of the economy in the coming weeks is going to be a very important challenge. Banks, creation of jobs, the cloud of recession hovering, so on. So who will, this is probably the first time that finance minister has become so important a figure.
All right,
will
fair
it
enough.
be Piyush Goyal?
It could be Piyush Goyal, never know. He's already been there on the seat once before in the absence of Mr. Jaitley. I must thank Mr. Rajagopalan, Mirza Chaudhary, along with Mr. Tirupati, who joined us on Newsnight. Well, that's the show. I'm Athar Khan. Thank you for watching.